Good evening, and welcome to the Weekly Voice, presented by VNN, bringing you today's top 10 Canadian news stories on September 5th, 2025. Let's get started. Canada has seen a dramatic fall in international student visas after Ottawa's decision to cap study permits. Federal data shows only 36,000 permits were issued from January to June, compared to over 125,000 last year. The federal government argues the cap is necessary for sustainability and fairness, but universities are warning of serious financial strain since international tuition has long been a lifeline. Critics say the move undercuts Canada's promise of education as a pathway to permanent residency. The debate is now heating up between economic needs, student opportunities, and immigration goals. Canada's trade deficit shrank to $4.9 billion in July, down from nearly $6 billion the month before. Stronger crude oil and auto exports to the US drove the gains, but ongoing Trump-era tariffs continue to weigh heavily on aluminum and steel. While energy exports climbed over 4% and vehicle shipments nearly 7%, losses in other sectors offset much of the progress. The Canadian dollar dipped slightly on the news, and economists say investors are bracing for a potential rate cut from the Bank of Canada later this month. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne says Canadians should prepare for cuts as Ottawa moves to trim billions from program spending. He ordered departments to plan reductions of up to 15% by 2028, warning that public service staffing levels will face adjustments. Prime Minister Mark Carney has promised that healthcare and education transfers won't be touched, but other programs could be streamlined with technology. With the economy slowing and deficits mounting, the fall budget is expected to be one of the most consequential in years, balancing austerity with targeted investment. Diageo, the parent company of Crown Royal, is shutting down its bottling plant in Amherstburg by early 2026, costing 200 local jobs. Premier Doug Ford staged a dramatic protest by dumping out a bottle of Crown Royal, calling the company's decision an insult to Ontario workers. Opposition parties have floated pulling the brand from LCBO shelves, while experts argue the move is purely financial. Diageo says Crown Royal will still be distilled in Canada, but the closure has already turned into a major flashpoint in Ontario politics and manufacturing debates. The Toronto International Film Festival has rolled out the red carpet with a star-packed lineup. Sydney Sweeney is headlining with Christie, Dwayne Johnson is drawing Oscar buzz with The Smashing Machine, and Matthew McConaughey teams up with America Ferrera in The Lost Bus. Fans will also see Daniel Craig, Keanu Reeves, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Ryan Reynolds on the streets of Toronto this month. With Guillermo del Toro debuting Frankenstein and Angelina Jolie showcasing new films, TIFF once again cements Toronto as a global stage for cinema and award season contenders. The Ford government is reviewing its office footprint as it prepares to end remote work for tens of thousands of civil servants. All employees are expected back in the office 5 days a week, starting January 5, 2026. The move has sparked fierce pushback from unions, with over 10,000 employees signing a petition against the plan and thousands requesting hybrid exemptions. Critics warn the government no longer has enough leased space after years of downsizing, but Ford insists in-person work is vital for mentorship and productivity. British Columbia Premier David Eby is urging Ottawa to either reform or cancel the temporary foreign worker program, saying it worsens youth unemployment. National youth jobless rates have climbed to 14%, with nearly 1 in 5 teens unable to find work. Eby cited fraud allegations in the system and said reforms must protect Canadians while still supporting agriculture. His stance surprisingly aligns with Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, though business groups warn scrapping the program could devastate small firms. Prime Minister Carney has promised a federal review with tighter limits already underway. New data shows Canadian home prices have fallen more than 24% since peaking in 2022, marking one of the sharpest declines on record. Inflation-adjusted prices are now below 2017 levels, erasing years of gains and pushing affordability even further out of reach. Analysts warn the downturn has unfolded faster than past corrections, including the 1980s and 1990s crashes. With weak sales, stagnant wages, and higher costs of living, experts caution that a recovery may still be far off. Canada's once booming real estate market is undergoing a painful reset. Canada's real estate sector is reeling after two scandals shattered consumer confidence. Ontario-based iPro Realty collapsed when over $8 million went missing from trust accounts, sparking a police probe. In Calgary, a Ponzi scheme tied to Remax Central further rattled the industry. Regulators in Ontario and Alberta are under fire for failing to prevent fraud, while governments are being pressed to strengthen oversight. Industry leaders warn the credibility of realtors is at stake, urging higher standards and tougher regulation to rebuild trust in a profession already under heavy scrutiny. Prime Minister Mark Carney has launched a sweeping industrial strategy aimed at protecting Canadian jobs from U.S. tariffs. The plan includes a $5 billion strategic response fund, a new Buy Canada policy, and targeted relief for sectors like autos, energy, and agriculture. The government also paused its 2026 zero-emission vehicle sales mandate for a 60-day review, giving automakers breathing room. Carney says the package will help workers reskill, strengthen supply chains, and reduce dependence on foreign markets. He called it the first step toward a more competitive, resilient Canadian economy. That's all for today's top stories. Thank you for joining us on The Weekly Voice, presented by VNN. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time.